The council asked back June, July time period for an update on our preparedness for the city of Lee Summit in the event of a disaster, either man-made or natural. So also was brought up on how we respond to them, what our process is, and what I'm going to do first. No, I'm not loud enough. No. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to talk about Joplin a little bit and what occurred in Joplin. By no means am I downplaying Joplin at all, but we learned some very valuable lessons from that city. What I hope to accomplish tonight is just to inform you all a little bit about the emergency operations plan that is in place in the city. Understand how our NIM system, which is the National Incident Management System, figures into play in the event of a disaster. What our response is as a city to any major emergency within our city limits, and then how our Emergency Operations Center actually functions. And if any time during this presentation you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, it's easier to do it right then and there while I'm on that point, so please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to talk just briefly about the Fujita damage scale, which is how the National Weather Service and NOAA calculate wind speeds during a significant severe weather incident. Mr. Dunning will be up here a little later and discuss it a little more in detail. Wind speeds are measured by the Fujita scale as 0 to 5, 5 being the worst, and that's what Joplin experienced on May 22nd. And they experienced winds of over 200 miles an hour. So talking about Joplin, they were struck by an EF5 tornado May 22nd, 2011, and the issue was it was embedded in the storm. They didn't see it coming. They knew it was coming, but they didn't know exactly where it was. It was approaching them from the southeast, or excuse me, from the southwest, as most storms do of that magnitude or that style. They experienced winds in excess of 200 miles an hour, and the damage path was estimated to be 3/4 to a mile wide in spots, and it was about 16.3 miles long for a damage trail. It's been recorded as the third deadliest tornado in recorded history, and it's the first single tornado resulting in over 100 deaths since Michigan in '53. To date, there have been 163 fatalities in Joplin. Devastating damages throughout the path of this tornado. It damaged to the hospitals, fire stations, city's infrastructure such as water lines, sewer service, natural gas, and electrical services, which resulted in a loss of revenue to the city in a commercial and residential way. It got to the point to where when this first occurred, the tornado first occurred, emergency responders even had difficulty finding out where to respond to because all of the landmarks were gone. Street signs were gone. The tree that you're used to turning at Douglas and Orchard up here, it's not there anymore. So that was one of our lessons learned, was you have to know your layout, you have to have a system to tell you where to go when everything's been removed. So anyway, back to the storm. National Weather Service had issued a tornado warning 24 minutes before it actually struck Joplin, just telling that there was a severe storm moving into their direction. They had numerous reports of tornadoes on the ground just west of Joplin, and this has been our busiest year to date for tornadoes. We usually average about 1,200 tornadoes a year. This year, the 2011, we're over 1,600. This is the path of the tornado. Severe thunderstorms up to this point until it gets to Joplin, and then they get hit by an F5 tornado. And this is what they were faced with. The emergency crews and the residents of Joplin were faced with. This photograph shows the upper left corner is a vehicle. That is a car that was pitched. I think this one was estimated it was thrown approximately a mile to a mile and a half away from where it started.
Yeah.
The upper left corner is St. John's Hospital, which I'll talk about in just a moment. The lower left is one of the commercial structures within the city of Joplin, and then the lower right-hand corner is one of the residential areas of Joplin. So you can see by looking at these how difficult it would be for the emergency responders, number one, to even get around, and number two, to even figure out where they are.
Some of these streets are surprisingly clear. Are these pictures?
Yeah, these pictures were taken after the event. These were not immediately taken.
Okay.
This is after some of the cleanup. And that brings up a very good point. How do you respond immediately after this event, after the tornado goes through, because your streets are blocked also? A lot of it was done by ATVs, pickups the best they could, and I'll talk about that in just a moment with St. John's Hospital. And the fire trucks and ambulances made it through the best they could. They did a lot of foot traffic. They did a lot of it on foot. The entire path of the storm wasn't an EF5 tornado. It landed on where the eye is. That's the initial touchdown point, and it grew in intensity. And then after a period of being on the ground, it slowly reduced in size.
Question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When it reduced in size to a 4 to a 2, what are the wind speeds on that? Just for curiosity.
Okay, from a 5, your winds of over 200 miles an hour, and if you drop to a 2, you're between 100 to 115 miles an hour.
Okay.
You know, it's still a significant wind, but it's not as devastating as the EF5.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is St. John's Hospital. They took the brunt of the hit. It was a fully loaded hospital. They were at maximum capacity. On this side is the emergency helicopter laying right there in front of you, and the emergency room is directly behind it. Fortunately, there are 2 hospitals or 2 medical centers in Joplin. St. John's and Cox's, I believe, is the other one. They activated their emergency operations plan as best they could and took all the patients that they could. They had them already staged in the hallways, but then they took the patients that they needed to move immediately to Cox's on the other side of town. They also transported some over into Kansas, Oklahoma, and down into Arkansas. But this was done not by ambulance service. This was done by any means possible. They used pickup trucks to move people. They used cars for ones that could sit up and transport them. Their main concern was to move their people, or the people that were injured, patients and staff, out of that area as quickly as possible. The next thing Joplin did was they realized relatively soon after the event that they needed help. And this is where we're a little bit different in this area than Joplin is. Joplin's kind of down there by themselves. They have some surrounding communities, but nothing with the resources like we have here in Lee Summit with the metro area, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But anyway, they activated the statewide mutual aid response, which draws resources from all over the state. Every fire service or EMS service or emergency operations service has this capability. All they have to do is pick up the phone, call SEMA, and they activate this statewide mutual aid response. They are divided into regions based on the highway patrol regions. We are in Region A, and we are the Region A coordinators for our area. So they called us and told us that they needed ambulances. So we lined up all the ambulances that we could find. We sent down 26 ambulances from around the metro area. And they came from areas, Liberty, Kansas City, Grandview, Lee Summit, Pleasant Hill, Harrisonville. We lined up 26 and sent them started them that way. They also requested heavy rescue equipment. So we got a hold of Kansas City FD and Central Jackson County Fire Protection District and asked for their heavy rescue equipment and sent it that direction. Also, I believe the police service were requested through the highway patrol, which is also incorporated into SEMA, and requesting police assistance. They knew right off the bat that this was going to be an extended operation. So they set up their command system and their EOC knowing this, and started working out away from Joplin using Region A, and then ending up like with Region F over in St. Louis area, or over in the St. Louis area, and kept bringing in resources. One of the problems that they found is they didn't control two main areas. They didn't control the media because the media started broadcasting immediately that we need all the help you can get. Send everything you've got. That creates unbelievable amount of problems because you have people that are coming into the area to work and don't know who's coming in, what they're capable of, what their equipment is, and it just created a lot of extra confusion down there. The second is they didn't have a combined emergency operations center. And since that time, we've had several meetings with the Joplin area and have discussed all of this. And this is some of the lessons we've learned, that you have to combine your police service, your fire service, your EMS service, even your public works divisions, your gas service, your electrical service, because that way the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. It's less confusing that way. So, are we prepared? I like to believe that we are. And the reason I say that is we operate under the National Incident Management System. And that is a system throughout the United States where every emergency service operates basically the same way. There's a command structure in there. There are issues of how equipment is brought in, who to call, even all the way down to the procurement side on how to spend your money, how you go about spending your money. So everybody operates basically the same across the nation off the NIM systems. So who, you ask, needs to be familiar with the NIM system? Everybody that works in public government per se. Even the elected officials need to be versed in the NIM system to some extent. You all are required to, by the federal government, are required to take some NIMS training, such as the ICS overview, which just tells you how an incident command system works, but it's basic information. I have to have more issues or more training in the NIMS system than you all, and like the city manager, Mr. Arbo, needs to be trained in different levels of emergency operations for a city.
And who administers that? Is that FEMA or?
Yes, it's administered through, actually through FEMA and through the National Fire Academy. There's several different ways of doing that. And what we have planned up, and I may cover this later in my presentation, but we have set up to do that training this spring because they're still making a few adjustments on who needs what. And once that's all in place and solidified, then we will be bringing that to the council for their training. And then all the department heads, all the fire service, police service are going to have to go through it. And the reason that's required...
Before storm season.
Yeah, before storm season. And one of the reasons that's required is in federal reimbursement, after the incident is over and we put in to get federally reimbursed, then they have the big questionnaires of who all is involved in it, who has who understands or who is trained in the NIM system, and who is responsible for filling out the requisitions and turning in all the federal paperwork. That's why you all are involved also into the NIMS. So the way we got good grammar, the way we have gotten to the level of expertise in the NIMS and in emergency operations is through training. We hold tabletop exercises for the city staff through NIMS. We have had 5 full-scale exercises that we've hosted. We do hands-on training with state, federal assets, and that helps build relationships between us, the state resources, and the federal resources. We've trained with FEMA, SEMA, the National Guard, 5th Army, and the rest of the listed federal agencies. We are going to conduct a state exercise this fall in November with the military on a major event that's going to occur in the metro area. We will probably host that like we have before. When that comes around, you all will be notified and offered to participate.
Question?
Yes?
I noticed the media is not a participant. Should they be, since they were kind of a problem in the Joplin incident?
Yes, sir. I just left that off the slide. So the media is very, very important because they are going to transmit. They're going to transmit the information that we need to get out to the public in a broad sense. Okay, so they are very, very important, and I don't mean to slide the media in the least.
No, no.
They are very, very important in broadcasting what we need the people to do and to know. So yes, they will be included. It's just my old brain didn't put that in there. We also have another avenue that we do. We have an all hazards training. We try to get our citizens involved, helping the city through our CERT program, Community Emergency Response Team. That is a training that we take our citizens and put them through a program that teaches them how to do tasks that they can handle prior to emergency services arrival, such as shutting off your gas to your house or to your neighbor's house. If your neighborhood gets destroyed or gets torn up, then the people that are trained in CERT can handle these problems. And that just takes a little bit of load off us until we can get there. We don't put them into a hazardous situation if we can help it, but we don't train them to that level. We just train them in the basic procedures. You know, how to check on your neighbor, how to shut the gas off if you have a gas leak going, just incidents like that. We also have a program in place that we teach severe weather to our citizens of Lee Summit, and we are also going to be conducting and ramping that up again this spring. All fire department personnel are trained weather spotters, and we're going to take that one step farther. Starting this February-March timeframe, we are going to do all of the employees within the city that are out and about, public works individuals, codes individuals that are out doing building inspections, street department employees. We're going to also train them to be another set of eyes for us. That is just an added benefit for us, that they'll be able to tell us what's going on there, as well as our people being out weather spotting. We also conduct mass casualty training. We are very fortunate in the state and local level, or state and federal level, where we have the Missouri morgue team here in Kansas City region if we need them. We also have mass casualty setups throughout the metro area. CJC has capabilities of mass casualty. Kansas City has capabilities of mass casualty. And when I say capabilities, we have trailers full of stretchers, bandages, equipment we need in the event of a mass casualty incident. And also all of our chief officers, staff officers are trained in advanced weather spotting, weather radar. We could sit down in our communication center or in our EOC and watch the weather. And we are not meteorologists by any means, but we have been trained to notice what we need to look for in approaching weather. So, after meeting with Joplin individuals and people throughout the state, some of the lessons that we've learned from their event. Enhanced communications. One of the problems that we found out in Joplin was that we could not, when we went down there, we could not talk to Joplin directly. Number one is because their towers were down. Their communications was knocked out. But even if they did have communications, we don't have the same frequency as Joplin does. So we've learned that we have to build in capabilities of where we can talk to anybody in the state. And we are working toward that goal in this new radio initiative that we're doing. Media control. We don't want the media to go out and do the broadcast of we need all the help you can get, but we also want to be able to have the media go out and say, all the people in this affected area, you need to do this. So we need both ways. We need to use the media. Know our resources. I said earlier Joplin had limited resources because of their area that they're in and then their small, the small towns around. And we are very fortunate in the Kansas City metro area to have a host of resources, not only from the fire service and the police service, but we also have agreements with the Heavy Contractors Association of Kansas City and with the Hospitals Associations of Kansas City to where we can draw on all these resources that we need. So if I call and the heavy contractors numbers and say I need 10 backhoes or 10 high loaders, I can get them from them. We do that through a mutual agreement. We need to make sure that we contact SEMA early and activate the statewide mutual aid system so we can get services started toward us. One issue that we have to be aware of is if we get hit, somebody to the west of us or to the north of us can also be getting hit or have gotten, struck by an event. So we've got to make sure that we know where our resources lie and where we can draw upon if we can't get them from the metro area. And we also need to be able to contact FEMA for assistance when they're needed. Okay? They need to come in at the same time. We all need to work together. And I'm not bashing Joplin by any means, but SEMA and the state mutual aid system didn't interact real well initially in Joplin, and that created problems. You have to be willing to accept the help from outside your immediate area to help you. We can't do it alone. With all the resources we have in this town, we still can't do it alone if we took an EF5 hit like Joplin did. Okay, we have to be able to use the resources around us and be willing to accept that. Another issue is establish multiple command posts, and the difference between a command post and the emergency operations center are two different things totally. If we have a wide path of destruction or this event involves a big area, then we may have to have more than one command post. But everything that's done at the command post has to be funneled through the Emergency Operations Center. Okay? We can't have the command post over here doing something on their own and we don't know about it in the Emergency Operations Center. So, and that brings us to the Emergency Operations Center. It's located in the basement of Fire Headquarters, and we have activated it partially a couple of times since in recent years. And what that is all department heads meet over there, and they have the capabilities of running their departments from that Emergency Operations Center. But in the event that the Fire Headquarters takes a hit, then we also have the capabilities at two of our remote stations and the police department to run an Emergency Operations Center. So we have capabilities located throughout the city if one of ours goes down. And then the last part that we learned is we have to train. That is very, very important. We have to be familiar with how to run an emergency operations center, how to run an emergency, as well as you all have to be familiar with what we do.